Morning. I have kind of a herd joke. I really like this joke, but I've debated about telling it because there will be sensitive people who won't like it. But so the city, so the city relatives are coming to visit the relatives that own the farm for the first time, and they've never been at a farm, rural. I mean, these are city folk. So they get to the farm and they find their way down the dirt road and they get there. And of course, when they pull up in the yard, there's chickens and pigs and goats and stuff roaming around everywhere. But up on the front porch of the house, waiting for them are the relatives. And with the relatives, there's one pig up there. And he's got a nice little outfit on and a bow around his neck. And he's got his own little couch that he's sitting on. And there's a little sun lamp shining on him. And he's got dishes and stuff. So they are intrigued with this and ask about this pig, and oh, this is a very special pig. We didn't even bother telling you, but about 6 months ago, house caught fire in the middle of the night, and we would have died, except the pig came in and drug Martha out of the burning building, and then came back in and got me and drugged me out of the burning house and saved our lives. And so they noticed and said, oh, the pig's only got 3 legs. Did he lose his leg in the fire? Farmer says, oh, no, but a pig this special, you don't eat them all at once. See, now I really like that. So, you know, there's herds and then there's herds, right? And we want as special a herd as we can have, which in a business sense means value, means responsiveness, means equity, means all those things. So everybody's going to talk about building your lists, and from it building customer herds, client herds, member herds, and so forth. I mostly want to talk about how not to wind up with a diseased herd or an inferior herd or a low value herd, and sort of what you do with them after you get them. This may already have been done in my absence, but it's still, and I don't know what the results are in this case. I know we have a lot of people who are here at an event for the first time, but that doesn't necessarily speak to longevity. So again, you'll learn more looking around the room than you will at me. Everybody who's got like 5 years tenure or longer with us, will you just stand up? You can use the exercise. All right, stand up. Now again, you'll learn more looking around at them than you will at me. Okay, stay up if it's 7 years. Stay up if it's 10, 12, 15, 20. There you go. See, look, LeGrand, by the way. It may not be accurate, but at his age, he doesn't remember. So he was just going to stay standing up until somebody told him to sit down. He doesn't even really know what we're doing today, what room he's in. He doesn't know. It's just everybody came in, so he followed. You know, that's. You will not find that same longevity if you go play the game at most other information marketers' events, or if you surveyed their lists, you would find a much shorter tenure, and however, you might find the same cost of acquisition. So your total value has a lot to do with how long they will hang around. And the most important thing for you to know about that, and this, like several things, so I will tell you it's a writer downer, and guys, that means we need to see it, thanks. Every member of your herd is losing value today as you sit here, unless something's occurring today to increase its value. This is not a static asset. Relationship, which is the real value factor, not the list, not the fact that you have a list, not the size of the list, not even the makeup of the list. The real value factor is the relationship with the list, their perception of it, their sense of it, their valuing of it. That's not a static asset. That thing is either improving in value or losing in value every single day. So, and you don't have to go very long doing very little to sustain it and improve it before it has lost all its value altogether. So you went to all the trouble to get them, but you go ahead and ignore them, or pretty much ignore them, for a few months. And you might as well not have gotten them in the first place. So it's important to have a sense of, A, how valuable it is, so you can spend resources accordingly on its maintenance. And then it's important to have an enormous amount of paranoia about it losing its value on a day-by-day-by-day basis. So there's factors that control the relationship value. Here's the short list, and then we'll talk about each one of them. So one is affinity, a sense of belonging, and pride of attachment, right? So if you stop to think about that for a second. So Bill, of course, was annoyed by you, and by the way, I live in Cleveland, so I'm not fond of you either, sir, but would you stand up for a second? Yeah, there you go. So here he is in his Steelers outfit. I assume Pittsburgh is place of residence, but see, it could be place of former residence. There's Steelers fans. They're actually, you can sit now, that's enough. They're actually, see, if you go to transient cities where people all have come there from somewhere else, so in Phoenix, for example, where I lived for 12 years, there's a large bar that is a Chicago Bears bar. And Chicago Bears fans gather there every Sunday. Chicago Cubs fans go there for mutual torture and suffering. There is a big bar in Phoenix that is a Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers bar. And it's divided in half right down the middle. And everybody goes in their Cleveland Browns outfits, and everybody goes in their Pittsburgh Steelers outfits, and they throw beers at each other during the game, and et cetera. So sports fans have enormous affinity and enormous pride of attachment. I have a friend now I race with at the track who will not race his horses on Saturdays because there's an Ohio State game. And if it's the late afternoon game, it's not going to be over with in time to do what he needs to do to race his horses, so he just doesn't enter any of them, which is his business, understand. So the business takes second seat to the Ohio State game. And his barn is Ohio State colors, his clothes are Ohio State colors, the horses have little Ohio State logos on their blinders, okay? And he is firmly convinced that his horses are Ohio State fans. Years ago, we had an owner who was a Jehovah's Witness, and so he believed his horses were Jehovah's Witnesses and wouldn't race them on certain. We did our best to convince him that horse, you got that from somebody else, that horse is Catholic, we can race him on Saturday, but I mean, so if you stop thinking about it, sports, alumni, fraternal organizations, which are sort of dying with age in America, but if you go back a decade or so, the Lions, the Elks, the Moose, you know, so people have strong attachment to these things, so that even in the sports example, even if he moved to Phoenix or moved to Florida, chances are he's going to be a Steelers fan for life. And if he's to the point that there's a room in his house that is decked out with Steelers paraphernalia, he's going to move that room to Orlando, and it's going to be decked out with Steelers paraphernalia. You've probably seen the NFL commercials they ran before the season this year, where there's the one fan in Green Bay of the other team, and everybody else is throwing snowballs and stuff at his house because he's got the wrong flag flying outside. So this people, military, People who were in the Air Force, who were in the Navy, tend to have that stuff all around their house, and they tend to wear apparel. And if they were in the Navy and they were on a submarine, they have a little model of the submarine. And so this is the thing we aspire to. We want the kind of relationship with a member of our herd that the Steelers have with their most ardent, passionate, committed fan. That's what we want, and that is their asset. So you kind of evaluate how well you're doing with this as one of the factors that you think about. So I don't do it very often for a variety of reasons, including the fact I don't like to travel and I'm antisocial and all of that. But generally, if I go visit somebody's place of business, who is a Glazier Kennedy member, especially of long tenure, they want to like show me their Dan Kennedy shrine. And it may be just a bookcase, but in many cases it's bookcase, it's pictures, it's bobblehead, it's stuff they've picked up at different events. There's one who has a whole room that's a little creepy. I have a letter from some woman, I don't remember her name now, but the headline on the letter is, "You've got to get this damn bobblehead out of my house." And so she goes on to talk about how her husband is so Dan Kennedy-ized that he has to have the Dan Kennedy bobblehead on a dresser, and that creeps her out, you know, so she can't sleep, she can't have sex, she turns it around and then he turns it back, and, you know. But I mean, you know, do you have that kind of, it's a factor. This is, I think I showed this in a newsletter. This is a guy, so this is his Dan Kennedy wall. And so I noted in your February newsletter your musings on whether people were actually reading what you wrote or not. For years now, whenever I read something of yours that is particularly insightful or challenging, I type it up, blow it up in big type, and frame it and put it on my wall. I don't have many meetings here in my office, but when I do, I watch people trying to read what you have written and then try to figure out why a 52-year-old man would have all these writings from one person on his wall frame, no less. And then he goes on to tell me a long personal story. This is not that unusual. This is usual and frequent and common in various incarnations. And so one way to determine, are you there? Is your herd responding in the same way? Is any of that stuff arriving in your mail? Is there, do they have a shrine at home or in their office? If you visited, would they be taking you and showing you their shrine? Now understand, any of this I tell you, I don't tell it to you from the standpoint of arrogance. It doesn't, first of all, it doesn't matter to me. And second of all, I am sort of bemused by it. And a few years ago, a family member came and was at an event for a day, and there was, you know, people were getting pictures taken and getting books signed and stuff, and he was completely befuddled by the whole thing. I mean, I heard him say to his wife, "Why the would anybody want to get their picture taken with him?" You know, I mean, it was just a complete mystery to him, and I understand the mystery, but nonetheless, this is the kind of relationship you want with your herd, and that gets us all the way to the second thing, the attachment to a person, personality. Now, there are business arguments for not doing it, for being institutional rather than being personal. Most of the arguments do not apply to most of you. There is what happens when you go to sell the company to some great big giant big dumb company. Is it impediment or is it not an impediment? That really is not a concern, frankly, for most of you. And secondly, it's not as big an impediment as you might think. But by and large, a personality-driven business is infinitely easier to build and infinitely easier to build herd value in than is a non-personality driven business. And so for attachment to a person, there's some things to think about. One, they have to believe that you actually care about them and the results that they get. Right? It's helpful if you do, but they have to believe that you do. Now, just as an aside, that does not extend to you walking around in a hair shirt and getting yourself whipped because most of your customers don't do anything with what they buy from you. That's not your responsibility, and the two things don't equate. But they do need to think that there's something going on here besides exchange of money. And it's particularly important to the ones who actually do something, because the ones who don't do anything generally are going to come and go anyway. But the ones who do something, they want your approval and your acknowledgement and your recognition of the fact that they are doing something. And if you don't take some satisfaction from that, it is apparent and it will hurt the value of your herd. They want to believe that they have more of a relationship with you than they do. So if you think about this in terms of television personalities or entertainment personalities, so a famous entertainer dies, tons and tons and tons of people go and put flowers, and they think Elvis, okay? The people who go every year to Graceland. So how long has Elvis been dead? Anybody know? How long? How long? No, who said? 33 years, okay? And why exactly do you know that? Well, see my point? I mean, no disrespect, but the very fact that somebody, so this is somebody, well, I'm assuming you had no real personal relationship with Elvis. Okay. So here's somebody, and she's not the only one who yelled out a number, right or wrong. So no personal relationship whatsoever with this guy, okay, other than buying stuff from him, records, going to see his movies. She has no relationship with Elvis. Elvis has no relationship with her. The guy's been dead for 33 years, and every year thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people make a pilgrimage. It's not just go on a tour. They're really making a pilgrimage to Elvis's house. Why? Because they, in many cases, think they had more of a relationship. There's a thing when you hire entertainers, like for infomercials or advertising, there's a thing called the approachability index. They actually measure the top 100 every year in how many people feel comfortable approaching them. If they see them in a restaurant or walking around Disneyland or at a mall, would they go right up to them and talk and tell them a story and ask for an autograph, or would they feel that that's inappropriate? And of course, the people you want to use for the most part for advertising purposes are people with a high approachability index. Home shopping, QVC and Home Shopping Network entirely revolves around the celebrity who's selling the stuff being one that people think they have more of a relationship with than they do, so they want to call in and talk to them and tell them their little story. So people who work really, really, really well on home shopping, Joan Rivers, who many of you saw at our event, is like always number one or number two on QVC in total sales revenue. And some other actresses go on there and just die. I mean, they bomb, and it's totally about this. Do people think they have a relationship with them or not? Ed McMahon had a much higher approachability index than did Johnny Carson. So even though Johnny was in their living rooms every night and everybody mourned when Johnny quit and mourned when Johnny passed, most people would not go up to him. They just felt there was some sort of distance there, whereas with Ed, they felt no distance at all. So relationship, interest, are you continually interesting to your herd? Okay? Personally, continually interesting, so that In some cases, they live vicariously through you. You say and do things they wish they could say and do, but don't or won't. You go interesting places, you meet interesting people, you have interesting experiences, you buy interesting things, and you have interesting opinions. That's important. Do they trust you? Do they admire you? This attachment to a person is an extremely important part of this value of herd issue. So amongst the many ways that you can sort of measure it is how much correspondence you get from people citing personal sorts of things. Either they're telling you personal things or they're relating to personal things that you have told them. The best feedback is like, and I'm not going to use their names, but these are real letters. So in the first 2 chapters of No BS Business, you did such a great job describing how I've been feeling. And then she goes on to tell me a big personal story, which I'm not going to bother you with, but are you connected to how they feel, not just what they're doing? That's a measurement. Another relationship factor, philosophy. They attach or fail to attach to a belief system. So now I don't care if you are teaching something extremely technical or clinical, and the core thing of your business is, I don't know, how to do heart surgery, or how to fix cars, or some technical clinical thing. You can't sustain a relationship based on that training. However valuable it may be, it fundamentally is devoid of emotional connection, and relationships all about emotional connection. So you also have to have a belief system that you stand for and represent and advance, to which people either feel attachment or they don't feel attachment. And so you probably have one. You may not necessarily be incorporating it in your relationship with your herd, but you should. And it needs to be interwoven and reflect in everything that you do. So I have one. I don't really need to take 10 minutes to enunciate to you here because most of you probably know it. And I give thought to everything we do. How can we be consistent, not just with how to, but with why to, with philosophical connection. All the way down to, I pulled, so we use cartoons and stuff. So this cartoon you've seen, related to the Wealth Book, and she's washing all the money, and they won't be able to call us filthy rich anymore, dear. I washed all the money. Okay? Now that cartoon has a philosophical viewpoint about wealth. You've probably seen this used. This is a little more subtle, but so you will notice I have not had myself depicted in a hammock, sleeping, and money flowing from the sky. I have myself depicted with more than 2 arms, working feverishly, doing 2 different things at the same time, and money is appearing. Why? Because I happen to advocate work. And I could go through more cartoons. So there's a philosophical component to this. Do you have one? Do they know what it is? And are they attaching themselves to it? There's a mission aspect to this. So people tend to want to be attached to, part of, involved with something, again, that has a higher, more meaningful purpose than just growing their business, making more money, and certainly than transactions between parties. Anybody in here quit smoking not too long ago and been a long time smoker? Okay. Seen that? Okay. And anybody in here, say, become a vegetarian in recent life and give up meat? Well, looking around, that doesn't surprise me. But okay, so we'll use you. See, those two people, see, he's got to be one of the most annoying people here right now, right? Because what happens when they quit? They become evangelical and annoying about it, right? They are on a mission now to get everybody else to quit. Some of that's misery loves company, but some of it is this shared sense of purpose. They have had this revelationary experience that, son of a gun, if I quit smoking, I'm not coughing up blood, and I actually can get up before 10 o'clock in the morning, and I feel better. And geez, my closet really stinks. I had no idea I smelled that bad, et cetera, et cetera. And now they want to go. They're on a mission to convert everybody else, even Weight Watchers people. Anybody on Weight Watchers? See, even you're annoying. See, because they have a tribal language of their own. Currently, it's the points thing. And so if you're at a table with 3 Weight Watchers people, all you're going to hear for an hour is, oh, this thing's only 7 points, so I can exchange that for this thing, which is 3 points. And I'm plus or minus 14 points. And you know that thing you're eating, you know that thing has 412 carbs in it, and if I ate it, I'd be in a 62-point deficit for the day. And you just want to blow your brains out, right? But so think about how their missionary zeal commits them further to the cause, which in this case is a commercial enterprise, right? Think about the Tea Party movement. For whatever you think of it and whatever good it does, let's not mistake the fact there's an underlying commercial enterprise, all right? But there's also a grand mission to which people are committed and evangelical about. In the personal growth field, EST was maybe the best at that ever. And if you're in personal growth, self-improvement of any kind, you want to go back historically and study EST. So when people are committed to and evangelical about a mission of one kind or another, they are more likely to give you greater longevity, especially if they're successful at all at being evangelical. Because if you get 2 or 3 other people involved, how do you gracefully quit? That's the basis of evangelical recruitment. Whether we're talking about network marketing or we're talking about a church or we're talking about Weight Watchers, whatever we're talking about, if I can get you to go quickly get 2 or 3 other people involved, it's much harder for you to exit because now you look like crap with the 2 or 3 people that you got involved. So mission is important. Now, of a more mechanical nature, frequency is very important. So looping back to the fact that they're either growing in value or losing value every single day, how frequently do we need to be in their life? Pretty much daily, because they're either going up or going down in value every single day. So if your primary connection with them occurs once a month, you got 29 days of loss of value in that herd before you try and pump the value back up. That's a bad equation. So frequency matters a lot. I had this meeting I mentioned it, I had this meeting a week or so ago with the CEO at Tupperware. And of course, Tupperware also owns Beauty Control and other brands. But they're a classic direct sales company. And we talked a little bit about how that industry tried for about a 5-year period of time to eliminate a lot of the boots on the ground, manual labor, meetings, move the whole thing online, use more efficient webinars and so forth. And some of the big companies nearly went broke doing it, and Tupperware never did it. And he said something that I have used myself as an example many times, and that is that no matter what religion you pick, Doesn't matter what outfit they wear, what hat they wear, what God they worship, what set of commandments they follow. The one commonality in all of them is they try and get everybody to a meeting once a week. Right? Well, there's a reason for that. They need the frequency in order to get longevity. So there's a reason that there's church every Sunday. Right? It's because 7 days is about as far as they can let them go without losing them altogether. Right? So frequency matters a lot. In our business, this is what our base level of frequency looks like. Now, you know it, but you may never have added it up. But depending on what level you're at and what you're getting, but there's 1 to as many as 4 print newsletters every month. There's a gold letter, there's a gold CD, there's a diamond letter, there's the email, there's the weekly fax, there's a couple of books a year. I put out 4 to 5, most people buy a couple. There's blogs, there's all the online media, which I didn't even attempt to quantify. There's 6 major promotions a year, there's events, there's a catalog. We're touching most members at least 279 times a year. Mm-hmm. The last I looked, there's 365 days. So we're a little short, but 279 is a pretty good number. And again, if you go look at most info marketing businesses, not only is the touch not of that quantity, but the touch isn't that frequent. I mean, you don't go but a couple or 3 days without at least an attempt on our part being made for another touch. Linked to frequency, constancy. Right? So constancy is really about institutionalized, standardized things happening, same time, a level of expectation, anticipation. Okay? So all real paid subscriptions are based on the magazine coming every month. And generally speaking, if you subscribe to House Beautiful and you want House Beautiful magazine, it comes the second week of every single month. It doesn't come the second week 1 month and the next month the last week. And then the editors all get busy and they skip a month and then they send you a double issue, and that's not the way it works. It's constancy. Monday Night Football occurs every Monday night during the football season. Not some Monday nights, every Monday night. And for a long period of time, it was an institution in America, right? They lost a grip on this, in part because of diffused media and online and so forth. But those of us of a certain age can remember, either in somebody's home or usually in a sports bar, I mean, Monday night, that's where every guy was. And a good number of gals, but every guy. I mean, if you weren't at Monday Night Football, there was something wrong with you, right? And so that's constancy. The multi-level industry has always kind of done it. So depending on which company, there's a night of the week which all the sales meetings occur at. There's a night of the week that all the opportunity meetings occur at. There's a monthly rally. It's always on the 3rd Saturday of every month. There's a constancy to what they do. Next, presence in their everyday lives. So I call this omnipresence. Okay? That pretty much, if they stand in their environment and turn around in a slow circle, they're not going to make it all the way around the circle without some sighting of something that is relevant to you. And again, go to a real sports fan's house, somebody who's an avid college or pro team fan, and try it. Most places in the house, you can't make a complete circle. Go to a real Disney aficionado. There's probably only maybe 4 places, maybe 4, in our home in Ohio and none in my office where you could make the complete circle and not encounter something Disney. Well, what does that do? It reinforces the relationship all the time and then causes longevity. Because if I left, I got a lot of crap to pack up and put out in the garage, so it helps with longevity. So this omnipresence, right, is there all the time in their lives. Today we have all sorts of media, so it's easier to do that than it used to be. But then, and note that I put it low on the list, there's the issue of value. Okay? It isn't even necessary. And in a lot of subculture information businesses, there is no direct monetary value. We sell money at a discount if we sell to businesses, but the people who belong to the Harley-Davidson subculture and buy Harley-Davidson apparel and go to Harley-Davidson rallies and go to Sturgis once a year and on the pilgrimage and all of that, they're not getting any monetary value from any of that. They're just spending. They're not getting anything. So there's not really even a fiscal ROI as there is for those of us who sell in business niches. And there's more subculture money spent than there is business niche money spent by a big margin. What does that tell those of you that are in business niches? It says you probably put too much emphasis on the value and not enough emphasis on all these other things that cause people to stay in a herd. Because the logic says, if I give them value, and I give them a lot of value for their money, and they take what I sell them for X, and they use that to make Y, and as long as that happens again and again and again, why would they ever leave me? Why would they stop coming back? That's a very logical, sensible, return on investment approach to a relationship between a consultant, coach, trainer, advisor, a publisher, and customer or client. But it is fatally flawed. Fatally flawed. That's not why people stay in a herd. We can argue it should be why they stay in a herd. There's a small percentage of the people who stay for that reason. There's a small percentage who stay even if they get none of the other things and even if they dislike the person because the value is so great. So I can't stand the guy, but the value is so great, but there's not enough of them for any of us to make a living on. So the very fact that all these people stay in these subculture herds and spend enormous sums of money on them and stay for life with no ROI. Steeler fan now, Steeler fan 20 years from now. He owns one shirt, he probably owns 10. He's probably got a lamp with a Steeler helmet on it. He's probably got, okay, and he's going to keep spending money. And he's going to, season ticket holders are going to keep going to the games. They're not staying for value. Panthers fans, definitely not staying for value. By the way, you know who the most important person is on the Bengals team? The bail bondsman. So the very fact that all these things exist with no ROI, no real value, tells you that you may very well be putting too much emphasis on the value, not enough emphasis on everything else. The one little tactical tip I will tell you about value is if you are delivering it, you damn well better document it. You damn well better demonstrate it, evidence, and document it at all times. Don't leave it up to them to connect the dots. If that guy tells you his business doubled because of your stuff, 2 weeks from now, he ain't going to remember that that's the case or that he told you that. So you better be reminding him all the time. Finally, dependency. Dependency, when you can make it occur, is better than any of the others. Right? So crack dealers don't have to work real hard to keep their herd together. Right? dependency on the crack, pretty much. They don't have to have a good location. They don't have to be in a good neighborhood. They don't have to dress well. They don't have to send out a customer newsletter. They don't have to have customer appreciation events. They don't have to do any of that shit, right? All they got to do is have crack and some addicts, right? And they're good to go. My client, Guthrie Renker, that I work on with the Proactiv business, see, one of the best things about Proactiv is, acne product, for the most part, if they stop using it, the problem comes back. So they'll leave the herd, but they come back to the herd a lot just because of the dependency. For however many years they got that before it goes away, for most people, just purely because of hormonal changes and age and so forth, they're dependent on that product. Once they get results from it, frankly, we don't have to do a whole lot in order to keep them in the herd, because the most they're going to be gone is about a month, and one way or another, they're coming back. That doesn't exist in very many businesses, but when you can create it, and the information marketing business is generally talked about, has pain of disconnect. Craig Proctor, very good at it with the realtors because he controlled their lead generation websites, controlled their lead generation of recorded messages, preloaded with his content, so there's a bunch of plugs he can unplug when somebody leaves. If you are actually providing people with leads or customers, if you are really providing them with traffic and you have the ability to cut that off, that's real pain of disconnect. Mike Jans in the property and casualty industry does it very, very, very effectively. Rory with Royalty Rewards, the business that he and Bill have built very, very effectively. Once they get that merchant through the first 90 days and get his customers connected to Royalty Rewards, and they've been promised all these rewards, and they're tracking their points, and they're sending them their point statement every month, and they're sending them special offers every month for that merchant now to drop out and go tell all his customers that card we gave you is worthless and all your points just went away and you don't get any more goodies. That's a difficult thing for a merchant to do. So pain of disconnect, that really is a fence around a herd. The next closest thing to it is true emotional dependency. So if they do not pay attention for a week or two, do they start to feel withdrawal symptoms about not paying attention to you, not hearing from you? If you want to give it the acid test, just don't send your stuff out for a month and see how many call. If the phone ain't ringing 3 or 4 days after it usually gets there, I got news for you, you got problems. So those are the relationship factors. Now let's talk tactical for a couple of minutes. So tactical implementation of all this, first of all, multimedia. All the media that you can use. Different people respond to different media, plus they will welcome more frequent and constant contact if it arrives through multiple channels rather than one channel. So if you're only showing up 1 or 2 ways, it's easier to overdo it and start, oh my God, is he here again, than if you're doing it through multiple channels. Amongst the channels, always print included. And I would point out to you, by the way, that all the most, and Frank said it yesterday, so I don't need him to validate it today, all the most successful folks that you may think of as online marketers, pay close attention. They're all doing print. They're all doing offline. And most of them are also doing manual labor. So the irony is they're all doing print, and in many cases, they're all going somewhere, standing on a stage and selling stuff. So if all you needed to do was online media, and they know more about it than anybody else on the planet, how come that's not all they do? Because that doesn't cut it. Some will admit it, some won't, but it doesn't cut it. There is no substitute for a package that arrives and gets opened because it evokes subconscious emotional responses that go back to childhood. Birthday, Christmas, opening packages. Right. Our subconscious is deeply rooted at about 8 years old. Right. And every time we touch that in people, we really get somewhere. If you haven't read the book, The Culture Code, how many have read the book, The Culture Code? Good for you, but not enough. Write it down, go get it. I forget the author, it doesn't make any difference. You can find it. Just go to Amazon. The Culture Code is about, I don't agree with all of it, but it's written by a very smart guy who has analyzed how products and services and brands and companies really relate all the way to the deepest recesses of the subconscious and the emotional system, all the way to childhood imprints, which are the deepest imprints we have. So one of them, for most people, is the joy of opening a package and maybe knowing what's in it, maybe not knowing what's in it. Okay? You can't replicate that. Now, I will acknowledge also there are age issues with this. So how many of you send email greeting cards and email thank you cards? Okay? Well, first of all, how many of you ever acknowledge anybody? How many of you ever send, okay, all right. Okay. So my stepson, are perfectly okay with that. Okay? It's nearly a moral equivalency for them of an email birthday card and a real birthday card. Okay? Now, I'm not sure that's true at the subconscious level, but they would enunciate it as the same. They see no difference. Now let's jump a generation and let's talk about my wife. Huge difference, right? Enormous disappointment with a birthday tweet. Right? All right. So there are age issues to this, but even so, there's no substitute for a package. Mm-hmm. So if you take that out of this whole matrix of frequency, constancy, relationship, you take something out that is very significant. There should always be audio. If for no other reason than the fact that people will listen to more than they will read in many, many cases. So take a 60-minute audio CD, get it transcribed, and see how long it is. Right? It's a lot of words. And while they may not read that, they will listen to it. So that's one reason. Secondly, you can convey personality often better, as Susan will tell you, our voice expert. You can convey personality often with voice that when they read it, I mean, we try and do it with cosmetics, right? Bold-facing, italicizing, copy doodles, all that stuff, but still, we're not controlling what they're hearing in their head because they read printed matter, but we are controlling what they hear in their head when we say it, so it should always be audio. I never know how to pronounce this, but I'll tell you what it means. Thank you. I'm still not going to try and pronounce it. How did you say it? Okay. It's probably Dutch or Swedish or whatever, but here, is it? Okay, here's what it means. It means like the unexpected extra, which often creates more satisfaction than anything else. Because the expected is the expected, right? So you pays your money if you get what you expected and what you were promised, however perfect it may be, you paid for it, you expected it, right? So if forget information marketer, if you're running a dry cleaner and you clean all the clothes perfectly, and you got them all wrapped in individual plastic instead of the pants from one suit and the jacket from the other wrapped together. But even if you get it all right and everything's perfect, that's what I paid for, right? If I unpack my suit upstairs and not only is everything right, But, oh, look, in the pocket, they put a little packet of stain remover because they know I travel in case I get something on my suit. Well, that's pretty cool. Cost the guy 20 cents, but I have a totally different now relationship reaction to that guy and that place of business that I do business with. So the unexpected little gift in your monthly package, the little doodad, the customized calendar we send out to everybody, that sort of stuff matters. Right? Nothing matters more at events and meetings than good cookies. Nothing matters more. Got to have good cookies, right? Because everybody likes cookies. Okay? Having the people doing the massage. See, that's okay. So what's new? Tactical implementation. No matter how well what you provide works and ought to be focused on relentlessly, you won't maintain relationship without periodic new. Fraternity, if they don't think they belong to a meaningful group and they have fraternal relationships within. So there's, for example, at an event like this, which is now, how many years have we been doing the Info Summit? Anybody know? Bill? Hey, how many years have we been doing the Info Summit? 7 years, okay. At this point, there are some people who are here, and the predominant nudge that brought them here is purely the fraternity. Right? They got friends they don't see at other times, scattered all over the country. They got people they like sharing ideas with. They got people they're connected to. Pretty much they communicate with them generally, not often, not well, and perhaps by email. And so the thing that put them here is that fraternity. Take it out, you're leaving out something very powerful in keeping a herd together. Ascension. For the most part, you want an ascension pyramid in your herd because, almost without exception, the more they ascend, the longer they stay. Your worst attrition will be at the lowest level. Your least attrition will be at the highest level. Guru's expansion of scope of influence. Whatever your core thing is, you teach somebody's talking to me on the break, so he's got a marketing system for owners of locksmith businesses, and he teaches them how to build their business up, all kind of stuff. Get more customers, get better customers, put people into continuity, build the value of the company. Truth be told, that kind of stuff, I can teach, we're done in a year. Right? There's only so many, here's headline, offer, we're like done in a year. Okay? So if you stick to your narrow core range, you will lose the interest of the herd and you will have longevity problems. So you need to expand the scope of your discussion with your herd over a period of time in order to hold them. Now, the good news about that is they want you to. So if they buy you as an expert about A, they want you to be their expert about B, C, D, E, and F, however unqualified you may be or however irrational that may be, they want it. So the foundation is there. Okay? So let's skip this. And I get this question a lot. So what do you talk to your herd about? Well, ideas. Most people's conversations in their ordinary lives, in their day-to-day, are not about ideas. They are price of snow tires, price of groceries, kids, annoying employees. They are day-to-day, mundane, trivia kind of conversations. In their business environment, they are narrow, often mechanical kind of conversations. You know, it's taken us too long to get an oil change done. What are we going to do the oil change faster in this shop? Right? They are not sitting around with their employees. They don't have a peer group. They're not having an idea discussion. But ideas are more interesting. It's easier to build enthusiasm for ideas than it is for the other stuff. So ideas, information. You can talk to them about information. The information that they will not go gather on their own, you are clearinghouse for and synthesizer of. Now, if you're good at relationship with a herd, you will have your herd sending you all kinds of information. As an aside, that's a little measurement of how good of a job you're doing. Right? So, I mean, people here are constantly, here's an article you may not have seen. Here's a book you may not have read. And so Vicki has a whole box of stuff now to get home to me that people have been handing me during the 3 days. If you're running an event and people aren't doing that with you, I suggest to you, you have a relationship problem. Right? If they're not sending it to you, I suggest you have a relationship problem. And your job of creating and producing and putting out information gets infinitely easier if a bunch of people are sending you information. Makes your task easier. So you can talk to them about information. Obviously, your discussion can include instruction. And that's what most of info marketers focus too much on, but it is part of the whole matrix. People want to and feel better about themselves when they learn how to do something that they didn't know how to do before. So instruction is getting them to do something. Could be setting goals, can be managing their time in a certain way, can be using a vision board, it can be how to use a template for a particular type of email. So some sort of instruction that they actually learned something, they got it, and now they can do it. Right? That's good. Motivation. A lot of people underdo this. Right? The vast majority of your customers, clients, members, so Frank said it one way, probably everybody said it one way or another, but the vast majority of them, if they don't implement, if they aren't successful, if they don't get the results they want, it is less about their lack of knowledge or capability than it is about their confidence. Even people who appear to be successful by comparison to others in their type of business or their community, most people are not self-motivated, self-motivating individuals. There's a reason. So today is Sunday in the NFL, and a bunch of veteran, professional, highly paid athletes will get a pep talk before they go out to play the game. Logically, this should not be necessary. These guys are getting paid $5 million to go out there and play the game. They've practiced all week to play the game. Some of them are 5-year, 6-year, 7-year, 8-year veterans. They know how to play the game. They should not need somebody standing up on a chair, giving them a pep talk and leading them in the cheer. You do that for Tupperware agents. You shouldn't have to do it for highly paid, seasoned veteran, professional athletes. Watch what happens when a coach decides not to do that. There's a word for it. Two words, actually. Dallas Cowboys. Okay? or if you wish, Wade Phillips, okay, either way, okay? So we tend to underdo this, okay? If you aren't one way or another working on their heads and bringing people to them to work on their heads, you're missing something. Entertainment. They damn well better be entertained if they're going to hang around. If you're running the no fun league, you're in trouble. Right? A cartoon goes a long way. Right? Personal stories, again, they want to relate to you personally. Human interest stories, celebrities, experts, and people from within your herd. Current events, what's the conversation already occurring in their mind? You better connect to it and deal with it. And of course, them. That's maybe as big an issue as anything. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you some examples, and I can't. But so how do you measure your success at this? How do you know if you're doing it well? So there's objective measurements and there's subjective measurements. The objective measurements are statistical. How are you doing on retention? Month to month, year to year, same month last year, same source of prospects, measuring your retention. Value of each one per defined term. So very narrowly, we measure your value based on, at an event like this, we measure your value based on the average dollars per primary attendee at the end of the event. All right? Now that's not a retention stat, but it's a stat. Disney manages dollars per head per day. They measure just like we do in the seminar business. Right? But value per defined term might be their first year. It might be 3 years. It might be their entire customer life. Okay? But how valuable are they? Your success at Ascension. What percentage move up? What percentage move up how fast? Et cetera. Referrals. How many actually bring you anybody? That's a very good measurement because it's a higher standard. Involvement, do they play when you ask them to play? Do they do surveys? Do they participate in contests, et cetera? And of course, responsiveness. Now those are objective measurements that you can set up benchmarks for, and you can measure by the person, by the source, by the month, by the year. Okay? And you can see in math how good a job you're doing at managing the herd after you get them. Subjective measurements, fan mail and personal correspondence. Are they writing to you like they would write to Elvis if he wasn't dead? Okay? I mean, are you getting fan mail? Are they writing and telling you personal stuff? That means they have a personal relationship with me. So I was going to read them and show them, but I mean, these letters are all people telling me about their alcoholism and their relationships and their kids and their all of that. And that says a lot. Are they sending you gifts? Do they bring you stuff? Do they send you stuff? Not necessarily big stuff. Okay? How many of the members of your herd made something for you last year? You get a quilt? You getting cookies? Well, that's a subjective measurement, but it's an important measurement. Success reports. Are they looking to you for acceptance, acknowledgement, and recognition? Okay, that'll keep them around a long time, but the way you know it is if they're sending you success reports. Or the only time you get success reports do you go chase them in order to get testimonials. Are they coming in voluntarily? Do they volunteer? Do they want to participate? So Craig Proctor, paying to be here. Craig said to me before he came, he said to me when he got here, hey, if there's anything I can do for you while I'm here, if you want me to stand up, if you need a testimonial, I didn't ask him, I didn't have to go ask. He's trying to volunteer, okay? And then your overall chatter. I always say at events, you know, I want somebody to go spy in the women's room and tell me what they're saying in the women's room, because that's how you know what the hell's really going on, okay? I mean, so chatter, online, offline, in person, those are subjective measurements. The most important thing about that, I'll say in closing, is you need to measure. Okay? You need to have these measurements. You need to be cognizant of it. You need to be aware of it. You need to be working on it. Don't just be focused on how many. Focus on value. Because all the equity, all the wealth, all the sustainability is in the value based on relationship, not the numbers, not the list. In a minute or two, you're going to get a bathroom break. And is Bill back? What? Oh, you got to have a break. Because then you're going to get Frank Kern. Bill is back, though, so I don't have to do this. So 10-minute break, real quick. Run, and be back in 10 minutes. And I'm leaving, so thank you very much.